What if I told you that one anime could change your entire perspective on animation? Hi, I'm Ruddy, and I'm going to give you my humble opinion on the legendary Demon Slayer series.
Wata, honestly. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu, no. Yaiba is a series I didn't expect to enjoy this much, but it genuinely left a strong impression on me. When I first started watching it, I thought it would just be another typical shonen anime. Wata. You know, the usual formula, a young hero, some training, stronger enemies, and big fights. But very quickly, I realized there was something more to it. Wata. The story begins in a really brutal way. Tanjiro, a kind and hard-working boy, comes home one day only to find that his entire family has been slaughtered by demons. Uatha, the only one left alive, is his sister Nezuko. But she's no longer fully human. Uatha. She's been turned into a demon. And that's really where the anime becomes interesting. Uatha, because it's not just about revenge. Of course, Tanjiro wants justice and he wants to understand what happened. Uatha. But more than anything, he wants to save his sister. And that emotional core, that bond between them is what really carries the entire story. Uatha. What I personally felt while watching is this constant tension between humanity and monstrosity. The demons aren't always just evil creatures. Uatha. Sometimes you get glimpses of their past, their pain, their regrets, and it makes the fights hit differently. There are moments where you don't even feel satisfaction after victory. Just a kind of sadness. Uatha. Visually, the anime is absolutely stunning. The studio Ufotable did an incredible job. Uatha. The animation is smooth, the effects are beautiful, and the way they combine traditional animation with digital effects creates something really unique. The breathing techniques, especially with water and fire effects, are just unforgettable. Uatha. Some scenes are so well done that I actually rewatched them multiple times. And what I really appreciate is that the visuals aren't just there to look good. Uatha. They enhance the emotions. When a fight gets intense, you feel it. Uatha. When a character is struggling, you see it in every movement. Uatha. Now, when it comes to the characters, Tanjiro is honestly one of the most likable protagonists I've seen. He's kind but not weak. Dabos the Atman but still human. And what stands out the most is his empathy. Even towards his enemies. Uatha. That's something you don't always see in this kind of story. Nezuko is also really fascinating. Even though she barely speaks. Uatha. She has this quiet but powerful presence throughout the series. Then you have the side characters. Uatha. And this is where it's a bit more mixed for me. Zenitsu, for example, can be both funny and really annoying. Uatha. He screams a lot. He overreacts constantly. But at the same time, when he gets serious, he has some incredibly cool moments. Inosuke, on the other hand, is wild and unpredictable, almost like a force of nature. Uatha. This mix of humor, action, and emotion works most of the time, but I do think that sometimes the comedy interrupts moments that could have been more impactful if they stayed serious. As for the story itself, it's not the most original thing out there. Uatha. It follows a pre-classic structure, progression, stronger enemies, training arcs, and intense battles. But what makes it stand out is the execution. Uatha. Everything is well paced and each arc feels meaningful. The Mugen Train arc, for example, is incredibly impactful example. Uatha. It's emotional, intense, and introduces a character who leaves a lasting impression. It's one of those arcs that stays with you even after it's over. Uatha. The entertainment district arc is more explosive, with high energy fights and even more impressive visuals. And as the story progresses, you can feel the stakes getting higher and higher. Uatha. Another thing I really liked is the Hashira, the elite demon slayers. Each one has a unique personality and fighting style. And every time they appear, you just want to learn more about them. Uatha. They add a lot of depth to the world. Now, to be fair, the anime does have some flaws. Uatha. Like I said earlier, the story can feel predictable times. There are also moments where the pacing slows down a bit too much. बेवकूफियों के लिए हुआ था. And sometimes the characters explain things that are already obvious, which can feel unnecessary. But despite all that, the overall impact is undeniable. Huata, it's easy to understand why Demon Slayer. Kimetsu no Yaiba became such a global phenomenon. Huata. And there's also something else I noticed while watching. The soundtrack plays a huge role. The music builds tension, enhances emotional scenes, and makes certain moments even more memorable. Uatha. Some scenes wouldn't hit the same without it. Another detail I appreciated is the historical setting. Hua tha. The Taisho era Japan backdrop gives the series a unique atmosphere. It blends traditional culture with supernatural elements in a really interesting way. Hua tha, by the end of it, what stayed with me the most wasn't just the fights or the animation, it was the feeling. That mix of beauty, sadness, and determination. Hua tha. So, yeah, if I had to sum it up, I'd say this. It might not reinvent the genre, but it delivers an experience that feels powerful, emotional, and visually unforgettable. And honestly, that alone makes it more than worth watching.